Welcome to this week's favourite Sunday sermon. You may remember last week I spoke about the lies being told, the untruths with regard to net zero. And this week has been no exception again for the exposure of how we, the British people, have been completely misled. We've been lied to once again. This time it's the ongoing topic of immigration, because we've had the latest numbers out for the whole of 2023, the number of visas issued to live permanently in the UK. You remember we've been told that immigration is good for the economy, it's good for us all, it's going to make us all wealthier and more prosperous and more diverse and more multicultural, and that's all a great thing. But you also remember Boris Johnson, Conservative Manifesto 2019, saying that immigration numbers were going to come down. Yes, they were going to be reduced, particularly low-skilled immigration, below 200,000 in a year. So the number this year soared, once again, up to 1.4 million people, visas issued. That's a city the size of Birmingham. In 2023, a similar number of visas were issued in 2022. And it's now March, and I think in 2024 it'll be a similar number again. Now this is a precursor to the net numbers that are going to be issued by the Office for National Statistics in the back end of May. And I think those will show that probably somewhere between 500,000 and 600,000 people left the UK in 2023, and therefore the net number will be somewhere between 800 and 900,000. That's probably the first time you've heard that forecast. I could be a bit high, but in 2022 they increased their numbers to 745,000. I think now that net number will turn out to be 800,000 or more. So when housing rents go up, when house prices go up, when you see more chaos with A&E, with the inability to get an ambulance, waiting times, excess deaths, lack of hospital beds, all of this stuff, can't see a GP, can't get a dentist, it's all there, it's all obvious, because the population continues to grow at a huge rate, and we just haven't got the infrastructure to deal with it. But we're told it'll make us better off. Really? We've just entered recession, as I predicted. It's a shame when I'm right on a negative basis. And in fact, you see, we were told that immigration would increase the size of the economy and be good for the economy. But the opposite is true. The economy is now getting smaller. Per head, we're now in the longest recession, 7 quarters, the longest since records began in the mid-50s. What that actually means is that we have been lied to again and again, because it's not a coincidence that as immigration has soared, we've got the longest period per head of recession. The two things are directly linked. Absolutely no ifs, no buts. That's where we are. And it's not only making us poorer financially, but we're seeing that actually it's changing our very culture, the very British way of life. And we're seeing extraordinary things on our streets, the nature of these demonstrations. We've had, of course, these pro-Hamas marches going on week after week, month after month now since October. We've got the police frightened to do anything about it. And then we had the by-election result this week in Rochdale. Extraordinary scenes which I have commented on. I have to say, much more seasoned people in politics than me say this was the worst by-election they've ever seen in terms of the behaviour, the intimidation, the divisive nature of it, the worst they've seen in 30 years. Truly, truly shocking. Firebomb threats, death threats, the whole lot. And I have to say it was awful to be involved with it. So much for diversity and multiculturalism making everything better. The reality is that we are just at the foothills, let's call it Everest Base Camp of sectarian politics here in the United Kingdom. Who knows what will happen by the general election, but we have to face up to the reality that we could be experiencing numerous extremist, Islamist candidates being elected as members of parliament sitting on the green benches by Christmas. That's the way we're potentially heading. So these are extraordinary times, but fundamentally what I go back to is that we have been deeply, deeply misled and lied to. Because they promised that immigration would come down, instead the opposite's happened. Oh, and here's another extraordinary statistic. Of the 1.4 million visas issued, only just under 350,000 are for workers. The vast majority, some 600,000, are students and their dependents. And they all actually have a take on our infrastructure, our services. They're not contributing in any way to the economy, to the growth and prosperity of the economy. And then there's lots more dependents and others and family members, and so the list goes on. And that is why, unbelievably, it's making us worse off. How do we dig ourselves out of this problem? Well, I think what we've got to do is we've got to say, stop, pause, enough is enough. We've actually got to allow ourselves the chance to catch up. And that's why we've got to freeze non-essential immigration. One in, one out. And let everything just breathe and catch up. Start building some more homes, building the infrastructure. Those that shouldn't be here, they need to be returned from where they came. The whole thing is a complete and utter mess. And the anxiety, the concern about what's going on, I sense it with the emails I get every week. And regrettably, it's turning into anger. Serious, real anger. That's what happens, I'm afraid, folks, when our elite, our politicians, the establishments, they lie to us. They don't tell us the truth, and then it comes back to bite everybody in the backside. And with that, let's hope we have a better week this coming week. It's here endeth my Sunday sermon.